My daughter, 16 female, and I, 40 male, found out that my wife, 38 female, cheated on me 4 years ago. So my daughter's laptop broke down last week. I have her my wife's old iPod to use for a while before I can get her a new one. As she was going through the iPod to set up her own account, she became curious and went through some of my wife's things. She found some of my wife's old messages on WhatsApp and Facebook. That's when she discovered about the cheating. My daughter called me while I was at work crying, saying that she needed to tell me something. I came home as soon as I can, and that's when my whole world was turned upside down. It crumbled down in front of me. My daughter told me what she had found out. Basically, my wife cheated on me with a younger co-worker 4 months. It was a conversation between my wife and her best friend. She told her about this hot young co-worker who was flirting with her. She was hesitant at first, then she bought down all her barriers and flirted back. They exchanged numbers, then started meeting at his place for sex after work while I was working my ass off. They hooked up for about 6 to 8 weeks before my wife came back to her senses. She said that it was the best sex she had in years physically. But she regret doing it, and she suddenly felt shame and guilt because it always left an emotional void and couldn't believe would ever cheat on me. She struggled breaking that affair, so she decided to quit her job and move to another job. I could remember her telling me that her new boss was the pain in the ass. That's why she was quitting her job. She was asking her friend for advice at this time. Her friend advised her to confess, but my wife refused, saying that if she tells me, I am going to leave her, and that she didn't want to lose me and her family, and that she wouldn't want to see me hurting. I remember her being stressed for about 2 weeks. Then she surprised me with a week-long vacation just between me and her to spend some romantic quality time. She said that she felt like we were not emotionally connecting and that the stress was caused by work. I know I am a trusting guy, and this whole time, I was blindsided by her. By this time, I was crying, my daughter holding me as I cried on her shoulders. It was the first time I had shed tears because I am emotionally strong, but all this was traumatizing, and the pain was just too much. The feeling of emasculation and embarrassment as my daughter watching her father shed tears like a baby. We decided we were not going to spend the night there. We packed up our shit and waited for my wife before we could confront my wife. When she came back, she knew something was off. And when we confronted her, she tried to deny it first, then she came clean. She broke down into tears and begged us not to leave. She asked for forgiveness, saying that she would do anything to keep us around. She begged for me to consider reconciliation, that we can work through this. She said she didn't want to throw away 17 years of marriage. My daughter and I soon left and booked for a hotel where we have been staying since Friday. My phone and my daughter's phone has been blowing up with messages and calls from everyone. My daughter has only talked to her sister and my parents who have been staying together. We haven't told anyone yet about anything. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I have been in my hour room crying all day long. I haven't even taken my shower, and I don't know if it wasn't for my daughter, I think I would be insane by now. Any advice is appreciated. I don't know how to move on.
I honestly don't know what advice to give you, except to share my experience. When I was 18, my dad found out my mom was cheating with a local state patrolman. I found out because it was the talk of a small town. I remember the morning he found out. It was awful. They divorced, and it was the worst period of my dad's life. But after a mourning period, the death of your marriage can feel like an actual death. He moved on, and my dad found the literal love of his life. They were together to the end. He was obviously much older than you, and his girlfriend died shortly after he passed at 84 last year. It gives me great comfort knowing that my dad was able to recover and then be so happy. Much luck to you. This is so difficult, so raw right now, but it won't hurt like this forever. It will get better. The daughter is the real MVP here. She dug up the courage to tell her father what had happened, instead of sweeping it under the rug like we hear about so often. Now she is standing with her father and looking out for him, like he has always looked out for her. If you do decide to give her another chance, you need to know this first. It will never be the same as it was before. You will never trust her the same. You will never think of her the same. If your goal is to get back to how it was before she cheated, get out now. If she's late home from work, you wonder and it will remind you of it all over again. If she's on her phone a little too much, you wonder and it will remind you of it all over again. If those are things you think you can deal with, give it a shot. Otherwise, leave. Life is too short to be with people who take a vow and then betray you. Your wife threw away all those years of marriage by cheating on you, then keeping it from you, which was doubly selfish. She had sex with another man for months and then decided not to be honest with you and allow you to make your own choices and decisions because she selfishly wanted to fuck her coworker and not have to lose her stable life. She is still being selfish by trying to guilt and manipulate you into staying with her and then trying to follow you instead of letting you have space and time to process. She has been lying to your face for 4 years, and how many times do you think she came home and kissed you after sucking his dick over those 4 months? If you have any self-respect at all, and if you want your daughter to have any respect for you, you need to dump your wife's trashy, skanky ass to the curb. Your daughter is watching you. If her future partners did this to her, would you want her to have the self-respect to leave? Because whatever you do, she will think is what she should do in the same situation. I was in a similar situation, only my mom did not show any remorse. I was about your daughter's age when I found out, but didn't say anything to my dad until 3 years later. Please let her know that you are proud of her courage, because it took a lot for her to say something. I'm so sorry you are going through this, but you will get through it. Also, don't stay in it for the kids, it never works out. Best of luck. Dude, I am so sorry for what you are going through. People are capable of making mistakes and being remorseful about those mistakes. People can learn from that and grow from that, never repeating that mistake again. The problem is we don't always know who those people are. I personally couldn't stay with someone who cheated on me. I would never trust them. I would think about it obsessively. But I do know people whose relationships have survived infidelity. Start by going to marriage counseling with your wife. Then decide where to go from there. And marriage counseling isn't always about saving a marriage either. Sometimes you realize that maybe you're better apart than together. Therapy will help you process all your emotions. And I'd be very careful about what you tell other people, including family members, because once you invite them into your personal life, they very rarely ever leave.